Okay, Chair, we are now live. It's not quite 6 o'clock. As soon as the clock ticks round, then we are ready to start. Chair, over to you. It's now 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Good evening to everyone here this evening and everyone that's watching on YouTube or Facebook Live. Good evening to Laura. Good evening to Liz. Welcome to our Watch and Transport Committee and all the committee members. Thank you for attending. The virtual meeting rules and guidance applies, and you're probably familiar by now what they are. And I think, if I'm right, do we leave them muted or unmuted in my meeting?
We'll leave them muted, Chair, and then if people want to speak,
so in that case, as you're fully aware, yeah, if you need to say anything or you just need to put your hand up and then we'll let you speak, you'll have to unmute yourself first. So, yeah, so that everybody is happy and familiar with that? Are they all okay? Yeah, thank you. Moving on to the agenda, item number 1. Notice, right, we have 15 minutes set aside for public participation, and we do have some, well, Laura, who's actually going to be wanting to speak on antisocial behavior, which fits in with our police report. And yes, Councillor Claire Aberton.
Chair, I think you've sort of skipped a couple of things. So apologies for absence.
No, I haven't. I'm just, this is the beginning. Yeah. Trust me. That's just the beginning. Public participation. Yeah. Yeah. So moving on to procedural items. Yeah. Number 1, which I have done. Number 2, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, Mr. Clark?
We do, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Shaw and Councillor Zubair.
Okay.
That is everybody accounted for, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. Do we know the reasons for the apologies? I believe we know the reason for Zubair, Councillor Zubair.
Councillor Shaw is working this evening.
Right. Okay. Are we all happy with that to accept the apologies committee? Yeah, that's unanimous. I've got the affirmative there. Right. Moving on. Declaration of interest. Right. If there is any declaration of interest from members or that you're aware of what's coming on the agenda, if you want to raise your hand up at that time, declare it at that time, or if you want to declare it now, you may do so. Any declaration of interest from the members? No. That's no one there, Joe. So we're happy with that. Declaration of interest from officers.
I have none, Chair. No.
Okay. Moving on. Public question time on participation. Right. Laura, you wanna speak now, or?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can bring you in at the time the police report has been issued by Inspector Khan or given, or you want to speak now?
Speak now, please.
Right, okay. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'll try to fit it all in 5 minutes. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. So good evening, everybody. My name's Laura Kelly. I have a small business on North Street. I'm also a mum and a grandma. So I'd like to speak about antisocial behaviour and how it affects all of that, all of me as a whole. So I want to sort of talk about the footfall that we have within Keighley Town Centre during the week especially. Now, during the week, I tend to find that we have the old couples who've worked all their lives. They might want to come into town for a little browse with the grandchildren. they don't really want to travel to places like Leeds. So Keighley is their hometown. They want to come in and have a little wander around. We have a lot of young mums with babies in prams, nipping in while their kids are at school. And for them coming into town, it should feel like a safe place to come. Now, hitting North Street, as soon as you come onto North Street, 9 times out of 10, there are a group of street drinkers there with cans in the hand. And it's sad, you know, it's a small group of people, but they can be intimidating for people, especially the people that I'm talking about who are in the footfall, the older generation, the young mums with prams. So that's at one side of North Street. When I go to the other side of North Street, there's quite a lot of drug addicts around that area who tend to congregate at the top by the bank. Now, I have had, sadly, people come into my shop and say, oh, it's scary on that end, or it's scary on that end of North Street. Personally, when I come into town in the morning, I drive in and I park in the multi-storey car park. And most mornings when I come in, one of the first sights as I'm coming over the flyover is groups of street drinkers drinking alcohol under the flyover by the multi-storey car park. Now, I'm not heartless, okay? And, you know, these people need support. But by allowing a group of drinkers to sit under the flyover, yeah, it's not good for them. It's freezing. I mean, just to sit on that wall alone is bad for their health, you know. I've actually approached the council and I have approached the police on numerous occasions. Now, I've got to say that there's two council wardens who specialise in working with the drinkers in town. The problem is there's two fellas and they actually cover not just Keighley but Bradford as well. Now, these need commending for the work that they do, because I wouldn't like to do their job. They will ask drinkers, and I've seen it constantly with them, will you tip your drink away? They do. They work really, really hard, but unfortunately they've got no powers. They have no powers to arrest. I have actually contacted the police. I've explained that, you know, they could do with some support, and they have. The police have come with them and they've worked with them. And I have seen firsthand that everybody's trying, okay? Everybody's trying. The police have the power to give the street drinkers a £60 fine. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. But the problem is this. The reaction that you get from the street drinkers to the police, which is a £60 fine, put it on my tab. Now, the police, the paperwork that they have to do. So I feel for the police. My heart goes out to them. Again, I don't know how they do their job. I couldn't do it. And they do a fantastic job. But when they collate all their paperwork, which takes hours and too many hours to do all their paperwork, they then go to court, build up a court case, go to court, and 9 times out of 10, these people get let off or they get a fine that just doesn't get paid. Look, I'm not heartless. I know everybody needs support, addiction of any kind, okay? But I also have to say it's a lifestyle choice. I've had really bad things happen to me in my life. I chose to improve my life. So as a business, as a grandma, what I'm trying to say is that if we don't address these problems, okay, it's resulting in the footfall in town dropping, okay? And what will happen is more businesses will close. As a business, as a grandma, we need support to be able to come into town and for it to be a safe place. Now, I know there are only a small group of people who cause this problem. I am over the moon that we have a new police station coming in. That's absolutely fantastic. Look, we've proved that we can lock down. Just look at COVID, we've locked down. why can't we have a full blanket ban in Keighley Town for antisocial behaviour? If someone's drinking and they're caught with a can in the hand, lock them up. 12 hours. Give them 12 hours, for example. And I'm just throwing ideas out there, okay? Give them 12 hours. Anybody with an addiction, the last place they want to be is locked up for 12 hours, okay? So if we could do something where we come down with a firm hand, rather than giving a fine that won't actually, they can't afford to pay, okay? If when you lock these people up for the 12 hours, you can then address, are these people homeless? Do they need the support of housing, rehousing? Do they need support of shelter and accommodation? What support do they actually need? But as well, you are then looking after the older generation, the young mums, the people who make a lifestyle choice to work hard or to look after their families and come into Keighley Town Centre.
Right.
Thank you.
Laura,
I've had 5 minutes.
gone over that, and
Sorry.
anybody else who wanted to come in this slot as well, so I allowed you a bit more time. And I
Thank
think
you for your time.
understood the gist of your argument, antisocial behaviour and drug issue. And obviously, we do have Inspector Khan with us. We do have Liz Horn. The community wardens that you're talking about, Liz Horn might have some input into that. Not necessarily tonight. I will speak to her.
Yeah.
And Inspector Khan is here, so you might get some answer from him. And thank you for your input. It's been really, really interesting. I think as a council, I think we do like to continue to work with you. Perhaps arrange a meeting, a separate one, and go through these issues with our town clerk, Joe. I think that might be possible. And so thank you for your all the input that you've given. Any question for Laura, committee members? Councillor Nair.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
We spoke at the full council meeting where you expressed your concerns, and you've continued to do them tonight. You've come to the right forum in respect of raising the issue. But I think what I've been thinking about as you were speaking now and the other night is, what is it that we can do about this? We understand the concerns that you've raised, and they are concerns which are quite universal across the country. They're not just isolated to Keighley. So what I would want to focus this committee on, and perhaps Inspector Khan as well, is what sort of solutions can we bring to the table? And we're obviously also aware of the issue of resources, and I think the point I was wanting to make by speaking was whether you were in a position to collate the information that you have with other businesses. I mean, it's all well and good asking you into a meeting and speaking to you, but it will be more beneficial if there was other people, who had more wider information about how big antisocial behavior issue is in relation to, their businesses. That probably might be more useful. And then we could set up something whereby we can, I don't know, maybe we can create a channel whereby we can produce this information or intelligence to the police that would enable them to carry out their duties more effectively. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your valued input, Councillor. Yes. Obviously, drinking has been mentioned, and there are other agencies in the town. Perhaps they need to perhaps come on board, like Project 6, because these people, they do need help. It's not just that they're out there, some might be there by choice, but majority are not. And you're quite right, that it does need looking at. And as for this committee, that's why I've said to Laura, I'll bring you in, Inspector Khan, that obviously we might need to sit down with the clerk and bring this agenda item at the future meeting as how we're gonna, if anything, we can help with. Yeah. So that's how we're gonna approach. Hopefully, right? Inspector Khan.
We've got Liz as well wanting to speak.
Okay. I think.
Thank you, Chair. And Laura, thank you very much for raising the issue. I know I gave you an update on, was it Thursday or Friday? I forgot which day the town council meeting was in relation to the work, what we did. So I'm not going to repeat myself, but what I am going to say is that, and I think Liz may come into it as well, pre-COVID, we did quite a bit of work with Project 6. And I know that Project 6 received a quite a large capital grant in order to establish a place where they could go and work with these people in the town, specifically the vulnerable people, and get them off the streets, bring them into their premises and work with them to try to get them off the problem that they do have. I'll be honest, I don't know, maybe I'm not aware of the full work that they have done, simply because a bit of my fault as well that I haven't linked in with them as much as I could have. But it might be worth, Chair, that for the next meeting, if we could invite Project 6 along. But I can assure you on the other hand, Laura, that when it comes to enforcement, where there are clear offences, then the law is there, the legislation is there, and we will apply the legislation. And we'll continue to do that. My staff are we see that every day, and it's, as much as it's, you know, extremely frustrating for the businesses, for the members of the public who come into the town, it is also for my officers as well, who have to repeatedly go into the town and deal with that issue. And we do require, at the end of the day, we work with the courts. There are a couple of at this moment in time, we have a couple of cases pending, criminal behaviour orders. We're waiting for the courts to process them, but because of COVID, everything has been delayed, unfortunately. And I'm quite confident that with some of those criminal behaviour orders in place, if we can take the ringleaders out of the equation, and with us, the support of Project 6 and the work that we do, I'm quite certain and hopeful that we should be able to at least make a major impact on the problem that we are having with the drinkers.
Thank you for that, Inspector Khan. That's all, Laura, with your hand up. I'll bring Liz on in just before that.
Yeah, I'm still here. Just a couple of points, really. We hold the place meeting every 6 weeks where we invite partners along. And on behalf of the business community, Steve Seymour attends that meeting. So if Laura or any other business has got any problems with street drinking or anything like that, or any other issue, if she lets Steve know, he can report it in direct to that meeting and we can follow it up. So that's a solution there. The other thing, yes, we, like Inspector Khan says, we have been working with Project 6, but we've also been working with the shared church as well. And even there's two sides to street drinkers. There's the enforcement side, but there are also vulnerable people as well who have a number of issues, and not everyone's the same. And so you've got to look at that as well, and what extra support people might need going forward. So it's like two sides really to look at it. It's an issue that has gone on for a while. It kind of comes and goes, and depending on you know, on what's happening. But sometimes the street drinkers see meeting in the town centre spaces, if that's what you want to call it. It's like their social network, and that's how they see it from their point of view. On the other hand, some of the points Laura's raised about intimidation and not feeling comfortable, that's recognised as well. So we are aware of it, and we can follow that up and we can revisit it. But if there's any hotspot areas emerging, like underneath the flyover again and places like that, if you let me know, I will take that forward with the police.
Thank you for that response. Laura, you had your hand up. I don't want to make a question and answer session. It just needs to be sort of wound up because we've got a lengthy meeting. Go on, Laura.
Sorry. No, I'll wind it up then, and I'm grateful, thank you, because I will be attending these meetings, which is absolutely brilliant. And I'd like to say to I do realise that the police are doing a fantastic job, Project 6 and everybody. I just feel there isn't enough police presence, and that is nobody's fault. I know it's a budget, but that's what makes it difficult, you know. So maybe we could bring Steve Seymour into this as well, because there is security within the town, and maybe we could expand the security outside of the Airedale Centre for all the other businesses as well. That a bit, and take a bit of pressure off the police.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion by Liz. The partnership meetings that they have, if you can get involved, perhaps.
Yeah,
even,
well,
Liz,
thank you.
And talking about security, if there is anything that we can do outside the town, I'm sure our council, you know, is willing to help. Unless a direct question, Martin, to Laura, then.
Yeah, can I just jump in a second?
Yeah, sorry.
Obviously, under public question time, it's not really a forum for a Q&A with members. There is no resolutions that members can make under question answer. You have asked me to do a couple of things, which I'm happy to do. I think it's better if we cover them under Inspector Khan's report, and then things like inviting Project 6 to a meeting. I can then formally resolve it under that item.
Yes,
I can't resolve it under this item. I don't want to be pedantic, but we've got to make sure it's done properly.
No. Of course, I would have brought those back up again anyway. These are things that have been picked up, that's all. I'm not saying that from this. I am fully aware we can't make no resolution from this part of the meeting. Right. Okay, it will be done, hopefully. Of course, we've got, you know, you here, Mr. Clark, so I don't think we do anything wrong, or you'd let us to do anything wrong anyway. So thank you for that advice. Chris Graham, you are also observing, so I'll let you come in as well. Go on.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. It was just something that Laura asked at the beginning, and it was about a blanket ban on drinking in the town centre. And I wondered if Inspector Khan could explain to us, could this be done? And how is it done?
Right, okay.
Thank you, Chair.
That's a direct question from you, yeah, to Inspector Khan, which I'll ask him in his police report if he wishes to address that, or if he wants to give response at a later time. It's entirely up to him. Thank you for that. Martin? Yeah. Martin, Councillor Martin Walker, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Laura, yeah, thank you for coming to the meeting tonight, and obviously I was at council on Thursday as well. Am I permitted to ask where your business actually is?
Yes, yeah, I'm on North Street in Keighley Town Centre.
Right, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Can I just say, as a great uncle, you don't look old enough to be a grandmother.
Thank you, it's the lighting. Thank you.
No, it's the Yorkshire Water.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura, for attending this evening. If you wish to stay, you're allowed to observe the meeting, or if you have other pressing duty to attend, then you're free to go. But right, moving on to the next part of the meeting, which is number 5 for public minutes for decision. Yeah. Do I have a proposer for the minutes for the 15th of December? Councillor Peter Corkindale has his hand up. I hope you're proposing, and I've seen Councillor Martin Walker seconding those minutes. All those in favour of accepting the minutes? I think that's everyone, is it? Any abstentions? Councillor Aberton has abstained. So they are duly carried. Anybody against? Just for completion? No, they carried. Number 6, progress report for noting. Right. I hope you have read your progress report, which is quite extensive. Is there anything that is something that you wish to bring up? Any question or concern? Or I can ask our clerk, Mr. Joe Cooney to say a word or two on it?
Chair, it's just the usual update on decisions that you took at the last meetings. Also, this is a combination of the 2 meetings you had in December. Most of the things have been progressed forward. It's just an update of decisions you've taken. So it's just to keep you. It's just so you know that when things are moving forward when you do make a decision. So it's just for noting.
Okay. Can I just ask about the long lead signs? Are they in progress? Obviously, with the situation we're in, it's taking a lot longer. But they're in place, are they? The process.
Yes, Chair. The 3 signs have been ordered. The purchase order has been sent to Bradford. We are literally just waiting for the sign team at Bradford to send us the final proofs. Once we get them and sign them off, they'll be made and installed. So we are moving along with the 3 signs.
That's great. Anyone with a question? Councillor Peter Cockendale.
You're muted, Councillor Cockendale.
Thank you for that. I'm wondering if anybody noticed. I'm just wondering about the 3 other signs that you know, for the I think there was one for Oakworth out, you know, the ones that were damaged and went up to the Manchester Road depot at Bradford. Are these the same 3 signs or are there others?
No, they're the same ones, Chair.
They are the same ones. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Councillor Anaya.
I'm sorry, Chair. I was just wondering, have we finished with the inspector's report? Because we seem to have, unless I've misread the report and the signs had something to do with the report.
Sorry, no, this is the progress report. We're just noting that and the issues on there.
Right.
That's still to come up.
So we haven't come to Inspector Khan yet?
No.
All right, sorry. I thought we had.
No.
Sorry. It must be the Yorkshire Water. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, I would just like to thank this committee for sorting out the Longley sign. We're nearly there. It's only been nearly 3 years in the making. So thank you very much. You've done something that Bradford Council couldn't do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well done, Committee. Well done, Kitty Town Council. And thank you for that, Councillor Graham. We're done with the progress report. Now it's number 7, police and crime report, which is for noting. And this is where you have been sent the information that you requested, Councillor Naya, in particular about the fires and other things. We've already had. We've got the figures there as well, which have been emailed to everyone, I believe. And if there is any particular concern on these, you may well have a question for Inspector Khan. Inspector Khan, it's yours, the time now.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think the first question I just want to ask is how come we're all sat inside with central heating on and Joe sat in some sunshine?
On the other side of the boat there, Khaled. It's lovely in Lancashire.
No, Leslie, thank you very much. Just yeah, an overall update. I mean, the additional information regarding the arson that Anaya had asked, I'll put some context onto that as well. But I'll start off with just the general issues that we have with overall with crime. The other reports, sorry, I'm just trying to find my other reports. I don't know what's happened to my screen. But overall, I think if you look across Keighley ward, the whole 6 wards, we are approximately over 700 crimes less than we were last year. If we look at our major crimes that we do have, the ones that we put a lot of resources in, for example, burglary dwellings, overall, we're substantially down. Drugs, I think I was looking at the figures and we had additional 58 recorded drug offences this year compared to last year. The violent offences regularly fluctuate between various reasons and the timescale. For example, there's an element of domestic violence. There was an element of probably what's going on with the lockdown as well, more people at home. Sometimes we're seeing more evidence of more neighbour fallouts, more issues with youngsters sometimes on the street who are not at school at the moment, which kind of contributes. And also social media plays a contributing factor in increasing the level of violence recorded that we do have as well. But in between all this, and specifically looking at the violence side of it, we have been having quite a few problems with our organised crime groups. It's been going back now for a couple of months where we've had serious disorders. I mentioned in previous meetings as well, where we've had firearm discharges. We had a serious incident at Morrison's where one element of the group attacked another element of the group with machetes and knives and caused them serious injuries. On the back of that, there's been numerous operations from the police. We've also launched Operation Springhaven, which was specifically looking at the Knoll Park area of Central Ward, because there were numerous issues and the problems around that area, and we worked specifically with Liz and Bradford Council and our partners to launch that operation. On the back of that operation, we've also had this Monday gone, we launched another operation against specifically our organised crime groups who are involved in drugs in the Central Ward. On Monday, we executed 7 drugs warrants at 7 various addresses simultaneously to target a specific drug where drugs and cash was recovered as a result of it. So our operations are continuously ongoing. We managed to get some additional funding from our operation, one of our operationals called Gemlock. We've had additional £30,000 to spend in Keighley. That means that with that £30,000, it gave me the opportunity to set up numerous operations with our organised crime group, against the organised crime group, by bringing in additional resources into Keighley. And they've been relentlessly targeted. And we've seen some very good results at the back of it as well. And that work is ongoing, and it will continue as well. We had the busy period of Christmas into the new year as well, and in the winter days where we normally see our burglaries go up. And fingers crossed, across the board, if we look at all 6 wards, then our burglaries have not gone up. They've gone down compared to last year. I think if you look at all 4 of the current wards within Keighley Town Council, Central Ward, East Ward, West Ward, Ansett and Worth Ward, burglaries, I think all of them have literally stayed under the radar, which I think has been as a result of some really good work, A, by the police, B, with the support from our partners, and C, also by the public themselves, with the messages that have been repeatedly given to them to take those additional security measures, etc. The regular complaints that we do get about speeding, etc., although the funding of of Stayside has run out, we still try to bring in additional staffing, utilising our own resources as well. And so where I get the regular complaints, we send our officers still to go and target those areas. We've still got Operation Stayside as a multi-organisation type operation, so where we bring different agencies together and they come and work with the police, and we target certain areas, and we continuously will have that moving into the new year as well. We're also looking at utilising the new PSPO powers which have been in place since last year for use of antisocial driving across the district in Keighley as well. So we've set up a couple of operations in respect of that as well, to work with our Stayside officers. And the ASBO issue I mentioned before as well. I mentioned it on the town council meeting in respect of the ongoing problems and the work that we've been doing with our partners, specifically around the town, the issues that Laura has raised as well. So our work is ongoing, and I'm happy to take any questions in respect of that. In respect of the arsons, I think the figures are in front of you. The information is there. As you can see, a large proportion of it is to do with vehicles. Now, a good proportion of those vehicles, I won't say a good proportion, but a number of those vehicles are linked to disputes between the various groups who've been turning up and setting cars on fire. We've had some evidence of some family feuds, which has resulted in cars set on fire. So there are a few different reasons, but quite a number of them have been linked to these disorders and the issues that we've been having in Keighley.
Thank you. Thank you for that comprehensive report, and thanks for all the hard work that you're doing with the resources that you have. I can see all the screens now. Right. Questions for Inspector Khan. Councillor Abberton has a hand up.
Thank you very much, Chair. Inspector Khan, I would quite like to understand how much of the resources that you have are held with the COVID problems that we have. Because I know that there are an awful lot of people who have reported things to you about COVID infections, or not infections, but they're not.
Breach of COVID.
Yeah. Sorry. So that's one thing that I would like to ask.
Yes. So in Bradford, as a district, we have a COVID cell, which is a dedicated cell looking at all the COVID calls that come across the whole of the district. The whole district is divided into 6 neighbourhood teams. And each neighbourhood team is required on a daily basis, morning and evening, to provide 2 dedicated units, 2 dedicated cars to go and deal with the COVID issue. I'd like to think that the problems at Keighley are not as bad as maybe some other parts of Bradford. On an average day, probably we could get anything between, and this is just a guess because I haven't got the exact figures in front of me, but I will assume about maybe anything between 7 to 10 calls in respect of breach of COVID regulations.
Okay. The only thing that I would like to say is that are those people who are responding to those calls, are they actually officers that would normally be in Keighley Town Centre or up in my ward? For the simple reason is that I had an occasion to contact the police about some obstruction in our road, and it took them, not that I have a problem with that, but it took them a while because they were taken off to go and deal with something for COVID.
Well, no, I understand that. I mean, the issue is that, Claire, it's not just COVID. You know, each call that is reported to West Yorkshire Police is graded in terms of its immediacy. Is, you know, we thrive it to see, you know, how, I won't say how important, because every call is important, but what's the immediacy required to get.
Right, forget about that, but yes, I agree with you.
So as much as, I mean, we could have, there's PCSOs available who can respond to those type of calls, so it doesn't have to be an officer who's on a COVID vehicle to respond to that. So I don't know what the reason was for the delay, but yes, your first question, they are those officers, so they are my officers from my team who would normally be visibly present, dealing with the local issues, and now dealing with the COVID calls as well, in addition to the local issues.
Okay, that's very, very helpful, and it will be very helpful for me to spread that within my area. Thank you very much for that. That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abberton. Anyone else with a question or concern or a comment? Councillor Anaya, you're waiting for Inspector Khan's report. Thought you might have had some.
I actually I sent an email which I think I copied you and the clerk in, but the report that the inspector has tabled doesn't actually relate to that. So I'm just wondering whether I want to be pedantic or whether I would just want to let it go. I'll tell you what my reason, Inspector Khalid, since you're here, my reason was I picked up on the false alarms, right, which was 454 in the year. And the email request that I sent back through the office was whether your department could cost what those 454 calls mean in pounds to you, and also if you could have provided the last 2 years of those false calls, so we could get an idea of if they're going up. Does that make sense?
Sorry, did you say false calls?
Yeah, false alarms.
Hawks. Yeah.
Oh, hawk calls. All right.
Yeah.
That wouldn't necessarily, that wouldn't necessarily come. I mean, those hawks alarms could go to the fire service if they are fire related. So the vast majority would go to the fire service as opposed to the police, and police would be contacted by the first fire service to attend.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Chair, just if I may, I have obviously Councillor Wright sent me the email last week. I have asked the fire service the questions that Councillor Knight has posed.
Yes.
And when I get the information, I'll share it. But I think I sent the email on Friday. I think Councillor Knight emailed me on Wednesday, I think it was. So
Yeah.
as soon as I get it, I'll share it. But I've asked for the breakdown of cost and the comparison of the last 3 years.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Councillor Robertson, you had your hand up again? No, thank you. Okay, I think we're all happy with what's been reported. Just one question, Springhaven, the launch you had for Lund Park and that. Was anybody from Town Council invited to that, or is this a totally separate group or different people? Or
we did try and we emailed the local councillor Nasser.
Right.
Yeah, who's a Lund Park councillor. So we invited him. We asked him to attend.
Right. Perhaps it was. Maybe he wasn't a councillor then. So okay, that's fine because yeah, I was just concerned.
Is he not the Lund Park councillor?
Not anymore.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I went by the website and I'm sure I picked it out from there that he was a Lund Park councillor.
Yeah, no, not anymore. He isn't. Right. Okay, that's fine. You answered the question. I would have preferred that you emailed the town council, somebody from this committee, or even the Lund Park.
No, I asked looked at the local councillor.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you for that. Finally, Chris Graham, before we move on.
Thank you, Chair. Is this the right time for Inspector Khan to answer the question about a blanket ban on drinking in the town centre? Because we're all trying to do our level best as councillors to encourage people to come in to the town centre and spend their money. So I thought Laura had a valid point here. So could you answer that one, please, Inspector Khan?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, I can. I don't know, Liz might be able to put some more context to it. I mean, it all depends. From my understanding is that if you are looking at a complete ban on something, then you have to provide evidence that the problem in your area is far above what is in any other area. Now, if we look at Keighley Town Centre from my own perspective, then I don't think we have a very large problem in terms of drinking. We currently have a PSPO in place which prohibits antisocial drinking, and that is, we utilise our powers, and so do the council, to deal with that. If we did decide that we were going to go further and we wanted to, because the problem was so bad, then I think we would liaise with our partners in the council and work together. We would provide the evidence, and I think Liz, I'm sure, will put me right, but it'll be the council who take it forward in terms of any local regulations that they'll put in place.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Liz, you want to come in on that?
Yeah, it's very difficult. We have what we call antisocial no drinking zone set up anywhere, what our officers attend. But again, like Inspector Khan says, if we were to look at a complete blanket ban, we would have to go into it in a lot more detail, get a lot more information. And I don't think it would pan out on the statistics alone to implement that, you know. So that's why we do what we do when we look at other initiatives, working with partners and so on and so forth. So I'm not saying no, but I don't think it's possible really on the law of averages, being honest about it. But we can consider it, and I can make some investigation just to see what you would have to do. So I'm willing to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that offer. I hope that's enlightened Councillor Graham. Thank you. I'll bring in Councillor Martin Walker and then Councillor Emmanuel. Councillor Martin Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm right, I think, in saying that there are, as Liz has said, certain areas where antisocial drinking is discouraged, shall we say. Is it not, rather than having a blanket ban, which is probably unenforceable, isn't it just a question of putting up a notice? I'm thinking particularly about under the flyover. Or is that too simple an answer? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Emmanuel.
Yes, yeah. I wanted to take this opportunity to ask Inspector Khan, just to clarify for me, what's the definition of antisocial drinking, and if seeing people in a bad state, maybe urinating around or shouting at people on the streets, if that's not antisocial drinking enough? That's all.
Right, okay. Councillor Claire.
I think antisocial drinking.
I'll just bring in Councillor Alberton and then I'll give you a final word, Inspector Khan. Councillor Alberton.
Thank you, Chair. I saw probably about a week or so ago that there were what I call COVID rangers on that bypass at the end of Hanover Street, and they were moving them on. I haven't seen them since, but they had sort of COVID on the back of their jackets, and they were moving those drinkers on. I haven't seen them since, but I just wondered if Inspector Khan could give us a little bit more insight into that.
Right, you've got two questions to answer there, Inspector Khan. Definition of antisocial drinking and the COVID marshals that Councillor has referred to.
I think the definition of antisocial is on the tin. The word antisocial just says it all. So anything that causes harassment, alarm, or distress, anything that you consider to be, you know, a normal citizen would not do, you know, in a civilized manner, will probably consider that to be antisocial. So if someone is urinating, has got a can of Zan, it's antisocial. If someone's shouting and screaming, it's antisocial. So I think the definition of it itself gives it away as well there, Councillor Bernardini. In terms of Claire's question, I don't really know who the COVID rangers are. There may be some who are employed by the local council, and I think they're probably encouraging people to comply with the SOPs as opposed to any other powers that they would have. I'm not aware of them. I don't know whether Liz can put any light on that.
No, I'm not aware. I mean, we have had council operatives come into the area, you know, to promote vaccinations and raise awareness and that kind of thing. But other than that, I'm not aware of any other teams, you know.
Okay, Councillor Bernardini.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing that Liz Horn said. Basically, those are people that work for the council. A lot of time is people that, like council employees that work in leisure centers and in services that are not working, that are going around to raise awareness around COVID. They don't have any policing power. They cannot fine people. They can just advise people to wear masks and give advice around how COVID spread. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you very much, Inspector, for your time here this evening and for all the responses. And if you have time, you may stay with us, but if you are pressing business to attend, you are free to go. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, town plan update. That is for noting. I hope you've read it. It's just for noting, basically. So, yeah, we're happy to note that. Councillors, yes, that's noted. Thank you. Moving on to number 9, budget update. That too is for noting, but it's got financial report and everything on it. So if there is anything that you don't understand or you want clarification or any concern, any question? No? Or we're happy to just note it?
Yeah, Chair, there are just 2 things I'd like you to do if possible. One is, obviously this is your last meeting before our year end, 31st of March. So what I'm recommending in the report is that members delegate, in consultation with you as the chairman, the authority to the Finance and Audit Committee to carry forward any funds that are allocated to a project. I'm particularly thinking around the camera for Longley, which obviously you've allocated £6,000 for it.
Yeah.
Depending on when that can be done, but we need the committee to ask for money to be carried forward.
Okay.
Basically delegating to you and me to ask which funding we need to carry forward into next year's budget so you don't lose it.
Yeah.
So
okay, Longley cameras is one. The other is CCTV. Yeah.
Might be the CCTV. You might want to carry forward. It all depends when the invoices arrive. So it might be something we can make a decision on nearer the year end. But this is your last meeting, so I didn't want you to miss out.
Oh, right, because you see the report. There's obviously some outstanding bills for the grade and refill and all that sort of thing. So we don't really have that figure that is available to us, or what we're going to do with that. Yeah.
Well, it's the figure that you've already. Obviously, you've got a roughly at the minute £9,000 left. But as you've just said, we've got bad weather coming. You have got more. You have more grip bins to consider. So that will. We've already refilled 17 grip bins 3 times. We have to do more. Yeah. You've got £6,000 allocated for Longley. You've got £6,000 allocated for the mobile CCTV. You've got £3,000 allocated for your signs. Now, some of that we could well spend by the 31st of March, but given it's your last meeting,
yeah,
it's just giving you and me the authority to carry things over if we need to.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Aberton?
You are muted, Councillor Aberton.
I beg your pardon. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm just wondering, Joe, is it at all possible that the budget that we have for watch and transport, we have pretty much allocated, have we not?
Well, you've got £9,000, which I would say is unallocated in your budget.
It's unallocated.
Yeah, I'm not saying you won't spend it, but you haven't allocated to a particular project yet.
Still waiting for some bills.
Yeah.
Right. Are you happy with that, Councillor Aberton?
Well, I just don't want you to lose it. That's the problem that I'm thinking of.
Yes.
Yeah. If I've got to be honest with you, you can carry forward money over that you have allocated project to.
Yeah.
What we don't want you to do is just carry forward just your underspend, because that's not how it works.
No.
Yeah.
Use it or lose it is what I'm saying to you, Chair.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So we as a committee then, we decide here tonight what's been the carry forward. We delegate that to the office. Yeah. Yeah. Are we happy to do that, committee? I propose that we do. Seconded by Councillor Anaya. All those in favour to do that? Yeah, that's carried. Is there anything else, Joel, we needed to do in respect to this?
Not on the budget, Chair. No, that's fine.
That's fine. Thank you. Only if you have this month 10th report that we have, it doesn't show much that has been spent from 30,000. I think it needs to be updated, that report that we have with us. Yeah, for next time, please. Thank you.
Chair. Yeah, But month 10 is up to the end of. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll get you more. I will send an update out to members because you won't meet before the year end, so I'll send you all an update.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Right, thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item, CCTV scheme for decision. To consider the attached report from Town Clerk detailing 2 applications submitted under the mobile camera scheme. Right, you've had the applications. Have you read them? And what are your views, comments? Councillor Alberton.
I would actually like to propose that the CCT application submitted by Councillor Sohill for Parsons Street and also from Councillor Adams for the deployment of mobile CCTV camera on Western Street, that those are approved.
Right, okay. And before I, yeah, have I got a seconder for that then? Or shall I actually, hold on. Let me just update you on something on this scheme. As you're aware, yeah, we did approve a CCTV mobile camera for an area in my ward. And what's happened with that is we attended the site, and unfortunately I was told that the cameras can only go on private property. Now I was under the impression, maybe you, the rest of you were not, but I was certainly under the impression that we could use lighting columns or poles, or that belong to Bradford, and was not aware that they had to go onto private property. Because if they do go on private property, firstly, you have to get permission of the private property owners, and then perhaps it has consequences for those property owners too, in terms of their insurance. They might be inviting, depending where it is and what is being looked at. So there are sort of issues there, and I don't think that we should just go into that saying, yeah, we approve those, unless we have got a site that will allow that, yeah? And that also that there are no consequences for our town council. Yeah, Councillor Amjad Ahmed.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't aware that what I thought was these cameras would be going on lighting columns and anything else, but I wasn't aware that they had to be on private property. Now, the thing is, does Councillor Shahid or Councillor Adams, were they aware of this? Because like I said, I wasn't aware of it, and were any other councillors aware of it? What was it? I think that's it at the moment. Yeah, were they made aware?
Right, okay. I'll bring in Councillor Abbott, and Councillor Anayat had his hand up as well. Yeah. Councillor Anayat.
Yeah, much like Councillor Amjad, I'm confused about this private and public issue, really. I mean, I was under the impression that they go on a public structure to hold it. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, for example, if somebody wanted to put something like that outside my house or any of my walls, I would object to it, and I'm sure everyone else would. But just going back to the proposals, I think that by agreeing these cameras wouldn't necessarily be saying that they can be put on a, an unviable structure, really. Because when the actual camera goes up, you would think that all of the risk assessments and all of the regulations have been satisfied, yeah, and then it goes. So we wouldn't actually be okaying where it goes. We would be okaying that, in that vicinity for that particular, to monitor that particular issue, that there would be, if that's helpful. Thanks.
Councillor Claire Abberton.
Thank you. Having gone through all the documentation, at no point does it say it has to be on a private land. And I would actually quite like to ask the town clerk if this is actually correct, because it doesn't appear to be on the documentation that we have received that it has to be on private land.
Okay, before I bring in our clerk, Councillor Corkindale.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, these cameras, we were in cooperation within communities as far as I know.
Yes, that's right.
And a gentleman came somebody came from in communities, somebody came from the people that were doing the cameras. At no point did they ever say to us that these cameras had to be affixed to private people's property. Yeah. Bearing in mind that if those cameras were used in evidence against somebody, they could lose all the windows.
Yeah.
As a result of those cameras going up. I simply thought that we could use the street furniture, bearing in mind that they are going to be used as evidence and that they are part of in communities, which is again part of Bradford Council. So personally, I would like, before we go any further with this, some more clarification as to where these cameras can go, where they can't go, and how do we use them. I mean, there are obviously reasons, like in a wooded area for, say, fly tipping, if you have them fastened to a tree, that won't matter. But to have them fastened to somebody's front gate is a completely different thing. So may I suggest that before we go any further this, that we ask the clerk to invite these people back again so we can ask these questions, if that's okay with you, Chair.
No, that's a perfectly valid question, and that's the question I have actually, because when we passed it, this scheme, at no time we were told that they had to be on a private property. So, and it does have implications for private property owners. So therefore, yeah, Joe, our town clerk can.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. To be honest, this only became an issue. Well, only realised it became an issue when you had your SAT meeting. Our understanding from our discussions was the same. And what we are trying to do, it's the link between in communities who provide the cameras, do the monitoring. They're the for GDPR reasons. They're the holder of the records, and then how we can then link that in with Bradford. Now, it's not obviously this is not something that Liz can sign off and say yes we can, but we are trying to bring the two together, so Bradford can be comfortable and happy that the way in communities deal with the footage, where it's stored, how they handle it, is in the requirements in terms of the GDPR. So that is a piece of work we are trying to do. What I would suggest that we do in terms of the two applications, as Councillor Knight has says, look, you can agree with them in principle, and then we can sort out the difficulties in terms of where cameras can go, and if we can get permission to put them on, because it is much better to put them on street furniture. If we can get that agreed, then we can move forward with them. And if you want me to invite them in communities back to a future meeting, we can absolutely get that sorted out for you as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. In communities, we'll come back and say, yeah, it has to go on private, because that's what they've actually told me. And I did say to them, perhaps maybe our town council can work with Bradford Council and with themselves.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, we are trying to bring the two together.
Because until then, really, yeah, we can pass these other two, but I personally would want to clarify the whole situation first. It might be that Bradford might not agree to it. So what we're going to do then, because it does have implications for our town council and the private property owners. So I think we should perhaps defer it, or because we're not going to go ahead with it until we do get the final answer from Bradford or the in communities. Councillor Ahmed.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think this matter needs to be deferred, and in communities and the other partners, I think, need to come back to us, and we need to get this discussed. And I think also we need to kind of put a hold on any more applications coming in, because we don't know ourselves what's going on. So ideally, if we can organise another meeting, see if we can get the communities in and find out what's going on, where we can and where we can't, and why we can't actually put it on street furniture.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that as well. Since we do have a proposal on the table, because Councillor Abberton proposed, unless we don't get a seconder, unless he wants to withdraw, and we can defer it. Councillor Abberton.
Given the light of our discussions, I would like to withdraw this proposal.
Right, thank you very much for that. Well, in that case, then I propose we defer this item to some future time, and do have a seconder. Councillor Abberton seconds it. All those in favour for deferment? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, committee, for that. Right, number 11, anti-bullying policy, and that is for decision as well. This has been on our agenda for last 2 meetings or meeting and a half, and we set up a working group which consisted of Councillor Anaya, Councillor Abberton, and Councillor Michelle Shaw. And what is the feedback from that group? Is it the report that we have? Is that what it is, or is there anything different?
Chair, from my point of view, I was on the group. All I've got to go on is the report, but obviously Councillors Abberton and Anayat may want to say something. I know we have been trying, following the working group meeting, to better understand what is going on in terms of bullying policies within school. We have had contact from the Strategic Lead for Education Safeguarding at Bradford Council. Yeah. And their suggestion is that it's not a good time to be trying to contact the schools, because they do have a lot on, but it's something which we may want to try and approach the Keighley Schools Together, which is chaired by John Devlin, and that's all the head teachers in Keighley. They have a group, which is something we can do. But obviously, Councillor Abberton and I may want to comment on the actual discussions they had in their working group.
Yeah, okay. Summary of key points, 7 and 8. Can I just ask, summary of key point number 8?
We had we did have a very wide-ranging discussion in our group. We did actually understand that it wasn't a great time to contact the schools at this moment, but I do know that Councillor Anayat had a very, very good idea of contacting a wider range, didn't you, Councillor Anayat? You were thinking of talking to various different boards.
Okay. Councillor Anayat, would you like to come in? If you unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. I think what the clerk suggested, to be honest, supersedes much of the conversation that we had in that group. But because I think I obviously agree, it's very sensible in terms of the 2 key points Joe's made. One, it's not a good time to be contacting school, and our group acknowledged that and understood that when we met. And the other point, which I was trying to put forward in the group also, was that we need some kind of collaboration to go to schools with a view of getting this information. I mean, it is sensitive information, and getting information from schools of any descriptions, it's not an easy task in itself. And the Schools Together proposal with Mr. Devlin is a good idea. That's something I think we should definitely take up. So very briefly, the conversation we had in the group was we considered a proposal by Sarah of putting to the schools in relation to a policy, which we felt we first needed to find out what policies they have before pushing ours. And the other thing we as I say, we discussed was because there was no comeback from any of the schools, what we should be doing in relation to going to, for this information to the schools. The only other point that I've picked up from the notes, but unfortunately, because I had to leave the meeting early, could well be, was discussed after I'd left, was that the group was asking for a £1,000 budget, which I think might be useful for us as a committee to look at now. I mean, I don't understand what that was for.
Councillor Abberton, before I come back in, yeah, Councillor Abberton.
Okay, so another thing, Councillor and I, that we did discuss was that we as councillors, and we would urge our other councillors to go and talk to the schools themselves, rather than it being somebody from the office. We felt that it might be beneficial for us to actually go and introduce ourselves as councillors for that particular ward, and to try and really liaise with the schools, and try to make it less officious, if you would like to call it that, and that it would be a very nice general conversation where we would be able to get some of that information from.
Okay.
Just if I can, just in terms of Councillor Knight mentions the £1,000 request, I think that obviously it would be your committee money, so it would still be within your committee remit. I think that's to deal with, or to look at, if you wanted to do a Keighley specific anti-bullying campaign. So if you wanted to do and that could obviously spread wider than just the schools, that'd be from production of posters, marketing material, templates, that type of stuff that the working group may want to look at. But again, that's your budget. You don't have to do it. It's just it's a suggestion. I think given that we are kind of going to put a pin in this until perhaps the schools are back, you may want to relook at it in the next financial year, perhaps.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, what I will do then in that case is I say we defer this, and we also defer the recommendations as well. We don't follow them to a later day, as Joe has said, to perhaps when the schools do open. Yes, Councillor Amjad.
Thank you, Chair. Just with regards to summary of key points, item 8, it says Councillors Anaya, M. Shaw and Abberton were appointed to the working group. Councillor Adams was also added after the meeting. I just wanted to know how that came along. Please.
No, no. I mean, obviously, Councillor Adam or any other councillor perhaps might have attended the working group's meeting, but the group does consist of what the committee agreed, the 3 people. Yeah.
It's standing orders state that the mayor and deputy mayor are ex officio of any committee, working group, steering group, so they can attend.
Yeah, well, in their capacity as ex officio, but they're not members. Yeah, they can.
No, they have a right to attend any committee, working group, or steering group set up under the council.
That's right. So there's no reason for that name to be there. They can attend anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you had the attendance sheet, the name would be there. Councillor Anaya.
Yeah, I think it's useful to say that Councillor Adams did have a conversation with me before the working group met. We had a long conversation about the issue, and I said that I would be happy for her to attend. We were talking about her attending, her interest in attending, and that's a conversation we had. But we didn't have any conversation about adding anyone else about the committee's decisions. Yep.
No, that's fine. Yeah, as our clerk has explained, as ex officios, they can be part of any working group or committee. Right. Okay. So I propose we defer this item to a time when the schools reopen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Corkindale.
Sorry, Chair, can I just say something else?
Right, okay, I've got proposer and seconder. Go on.
Okay, I was just going to say if we could defer it to the next academic year, might be useful for us to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's just said that when the schools are back.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be this term.
Yeah, the schools are off at the moment and they're back after the restrictions, and I'm just trying to define it that not then, but in the new academic year, which is in September.
Are we okay with that?
I don't think we have that time. I'm sorry, Chair. I'm sorry. I don't think we have that time.
No, we do have that time because obviously, as Joe has already said, with the situation we're in, it's going to be a bit hard. In the meantime, if councillors do want to go into their own schools and make themselves aware or familiar with that, and perhaps can talk to me informally, and they can actually feed it to the working group what the conversation has been. I don't think we will get far with this at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay, Clerk, Mr. Joe Cooney, what date would you suggest of the month?
Chair, to be honest, I think it's quite sensible to leave it till the next academic year. By the time we get into April, the schools aren't going to be back properly.
Okay, as a proposer and seconder, Councillor Corkindale, are you happy to put that amendment in there?
I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, all right. The schools may not back, but I think it might be better defer this to the next meeting of this committee, so it can be discussed again. And we don't know what's going to happen between now and the start of the next civic year. So I would presume that come May, there will be a meeting sometime in May or May time after the. That you defer this to the next meeting of this committee for further discussion rather than leave it while September. It does seem a long time.
Right, okay, because we'll be in a better position to know what's happening summer-wise after or during. Can I just ask Clark, when's not our next meeting, but the following meeting? Do we know when that is?
Chair, no. Based on your calendar for this year, it would be April, then June.
April. Okay. Okay, I defer it to the April meeting until then, because obviously we're going to have perhaps a new after May, depending, who comes on or who leaves. They can obviously, maybe the new chair, they can decide how they want to go forward after that. So perhaps the April meeting, we defer it till then. I propose Councillor Corkindale is seconding it. All those in favour? Yeah. Any abstentions? Any against? Right, that's carried. Although I didn't see Councillor Andy's hand on either. Right, moving on to the next item over here. Parkwood Street improvements for discussion. Item added to the agenda by Councillor M. Shaw. And the latest update was the legal notices have been prepared and the notice period is due to run out from 4th of February to 25th of February is to run. Any objections received will be considered by Bradford MDC. As long as there are no objections, the works will be able to proceed to the implementation phase. Are we happy with that, to note that, or yeah? I don't think there's anything more to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. There's no discussion, so thank you for that update. The office. Number 13, grit bin requests for decision. Right, to consider the attached green bin requests received since the last meeting of the committee. Yes, we have had several, I think. 1 second. We got, have you seen these? The rest of the committee, councillors? Yeah. Is there any particular one that stands out or is a concern or or are we happy to go along with it? Yeah, right. The first one is Longley and Parkwood, and that's on Daleview Grove. Any issues on that, or any negative? Yeah, no, are we happy with that? Right, okay. We'll take them all together then in that case later. Thornbank Avenue, Brackenbank and Ingro, that is.
Yeah. Chair, do you think we could propose them on block? Because
I'm just reading what they are for the public of, for the interest of everyone that's watching, perhaps not just the committee. I know you're aware of them. So Thornbank Avenue, yeah, okay, that's fine. Ainsworth Wood, Ainsworth Road, yeah, Woodhouse and Ainsworth. It's got
Chair. Thornbank. I would like to talk about Thornbank. I know it's a refusal, but I am a little bit puzzled that it is outside Thornbank. It says it fits with criteria 1 or criteria A, which is the one in whatever. But having looked at it, it looks to be flat. And I just wondered if the councillor for that area could just give us a little bit more information. Because the guy was saying that there was ambulances that came that couldn't get to the houses. There are a lot of bungalows on that, and elderly people live there. And there is a grip bin in situ. Would it be possible for that grip bin to be moved if it is in the wrong place? I'd just like a little bit of information from the Bogthorne councillor, who might be able to give us a bit more information as how he lives around the corner. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Walker, can enlighten on that then?
Yeah, yeah, I am on. I take Councillor Corkindale's point. Yeah, it is within my ward. Obviously, it's just up the road from where I am at the moment. The gentleman did complain quite strongly that there was difficulty to get ambulances there. And during the recent snowy period, we actually had a case where somebody had to be taken on a stretcher through about 4 inches of snow downhill past my house to get to where they could get the ambulance. So, I mean, it's a serious issue from that point of view. There is also, the clerk did say to me not to mention this, but there is also an unused yellow grit bin at the end of Moorlands Avenue, where the little road goes on up to those farms above. That had some put into it by the gritters simply because I mentioned that there was one there, but it's not officially on our list. There is one just opposite my house, but that is technically on Woodview Road. I'm not aware of there being one at Thornbank Avenue.
So if the one that was filled up, but it's not on the list, would that suffice and do the job?
Probably.
Right, okay. Then I think that's the route we should take, because this one obviously it does not meet our policy and it fails, and we have to be consistent with our policy. And if you can find a different way of meeting that, which is possible in this case, I believe that's what we need to do then. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree entirely, Chair, and I wouldn't want to do anything that was against the grip bin policy, having been part of the group that actually put that policy together. However, there is quite a steep road between Oakworth Road and Thornbank, and I think that needs the local councillor to look at and tell us whether or not it would be advisable to put something there. If I'm particularly concerned if ambulances can't get to elderly people's homes. I don't think Thornbank Avenue needs one, it's flat. But the ambulance needs to get to Thornbank before it reaches the flat area. I just would like a little bit more information, because at one point they said it fails because it's within 200 yards of another grip bin. Well, I can't find that grip bin, and I've had a look. So I would just like a little bit. I'm not saying we should. I'm saying we should do what we're supposed to do tonight. That is refuse it. But can we have a look at it, please, so that we know we're doing the right thing?
Okay, Councillor Martin Walker, I shall bring you.
Chair, for information, the lady was actually on Thornbank. It was the first of the bungalows. I can actually physically see it from my house. And the problem was they tried bringing the ambulance up forwards and it lost drive. They then turned it round outside my house and tried to back it up and lost drive again. So they had no other alternative. This was a lady who had had a heart attack, and they had to physically bring in a second ambulance, park that up, and 3 of them come down past my house on a very slippery slope with the snow. And somehow they managed to get her into the ambulance without running into the ambulance, because the conditions were atrocious.
Right.
But I will have another look at this and report back. Yeah.
Okay, if you can have a look at that, because Woodview actually is very steep, yeah, and it is between the whole thing.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Sorry, Chair. Moreland is actually just as steep, and that's where there's the difficulty with getting an ambulance up, because cars park on both sides.
Morelands, right, that's on the other side, right? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll vote for the 2 that we have got, refuse that, and you bring it to the next committee. Yeah, put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we can deal with that. Yeah, are we all happy with that? So I propose that we accept the 2 that pass our grit bin policy. Councillor Anaya is seconding. All those in favour? Yeah. That's carried. Thank you very much. Is there anything else in respect to that, Mr. Clark, that we need to do? No?
No, Chair. Just I think on the side, obviously, this is kind of the first real time I've been through a winter with your grit bins. Sorry, with our grit bins. I think there is work for us to do over the spring and summer ahead of next year. And I know we've been contacted via somebody at Bradford Council who is trying to look at all grit bins across the entire district in terms of what town and parish councils have and what Bradford have. And I think that's going to be a piece of work we'll feed into over the summer, because I think there is still some confusion over who owns what between Bradford and Sexual. But yeah, I think we can make ourselves better as well, and we'll talk about that perhaps over the spring and summer.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, councillors, for passing the 2. Right. Moving on to number 14, future items. Future items. Yes, leading from our speaker, antisocial behaviour, and what role can do Project 6 play. Perhaps we can have them on the committee, or yeah, as an agenda item. How we can fit in as a holistic approach with the police, the council, and what they can do, because obviously it's an issue. This grit bin from, sorry, Councillor Martin Walker. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Chair, but following on from the fact that there's probably snow forecast for tomorrow, can I just make the point, which I don't think is generally known, that we, in the sort of the square, if I can call it, including all the bank avenues, is now on some kind of secondary gritting route, which is something I've been here 4.5 years and I've not seen them before. But certainly in the last 3 periods of snow, a gritting lorry has been round the block, if you like.
That's good then, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I've got that. Any other item on the agenda apart from the standing items that come on to the agenda every meeting? Councillors? Nothing? We're all happy? We're all happy. Thank you for attending, everyone. Thank you to Liz Horn and Inspector Khan and our observers and our public speaker, participator, and the rest of you. Thank you very much. Until the date of the next meeting is 12th of April.